Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another year of the Sunday Podcast.
I'm Ollie Lam.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
Back in 2025 for our 5th season. You can expect more of this.
He's claiming that he was ill before the semi-final, whatever. But, you know, I just feel like at that point he was just looking for attention.
And some of this.
Elio normally say, no human is limited. So I can't limit myself, or I can't just say I can do.
As well as event coverage around all the major races on the UK circuit.
And if you're a fan of the pod, please give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast streaming service.
And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, give us a follow on Instagram at Sunday Podcast.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time. And we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Okay, guys, welcome to a nice little bonus episode for you. A bit later than normal. We waited till, I guess, the end of the week, or nearly the end of the week, so we could chat about the first few rounds at Euros. So look, mate, let's get into those 1500s. We've already seen 2 European champions crowned. Business as usual in the men, and a massive shock in the women's race with Georgia Hunter-Bell outside of the medals.
Yeah, what words do you think were exchanged with her and Reve then after the race? Like,
I felt a bit sorry for Reve because she almost looked awkward, because when the result came up, they sort of sat next to each other, and where if it was anyone else, she'd kind of celebrate, or
mate, if that was,
it was sort of like,
100%.
Yeah.
I more mean that little push that happened with about 20 meters to go. Like there was contact there, and whether that, I watched it back a couple times.
I thought that had cost Reve though.
Yeah,
originally.
That's the thing. At first, I was like, it's a bit like she's pushed Georgia. That's probably a bit naughty. And
I think it helped Georgia though.
Cost Georgia, but yeah, you can see obviously she kind of pushes Georgia forward. So initially it propels her. Then kind of Georgia tied up even more after it. So there was contact, and they didn't really talk about it, obviously, in the studio or anything like that, even on comms. And I was like, if that was Georgia and, you know, another runner from another country, that would have been a big talking point.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm gassing it up a bit, but yeah.
I think it kind of worked out for the best, because I don't think Georgia Bell was there to win, right? And I don't think she'd have been disappointed even if she got silver, right? So I don't think that was that much of a factor. I think if Reve had managed to not go into the back of Georgia Bell with 60 to go, 70 to go, whatever it is, she comes past easier.
Yeah,
I just don't think she was expecting Georgia Bell to tie up that much, and you wouldn't really. And so, which is why she hadn't swung around already, because the worst thing is to go wide, especially indoors, and then you're not going past someone. So she was waiting to kick, but then Georgia Bell just had nothing left. So I think that's the only reason it was as close it was. I think if she managed to come around the outside, she'd have been quite comfortable for.
It certainly looked like she had the momentum, didn't it?
Yeah,
I'll give her that. And yeah, it was a big shock from Georgia. I mean, the thing is as well, I'm not sure. I mean, of course, I'm sure she would have expected, that level of competition, but that Gilmo was just chomping at the bit behind her. Like, there were multiple opportunities where I was like, look, the inside never really opened up, but you could tell Gilmo was like, I feel really good. I want to take that lane. And I wonder if, as the race progressed, especially going into that last 200, that's just starting to play on Georgia's mind. Like, she's ramping it up. Each 200, similar to Jakob, is trying to get faster and faster. However, they just weren't shifting. And if anything, they just had more. And I think that was tough position to be in. And then obviously, as soon as you start to tie up around that bend, it's game over. Which lots has been said about these bends. They are bloody steep. And when you're tying up around them, it is game over. You just can't. You can't just hold your form together as well as you could, obviously, on a more gradual slope.
Yeah, and just even, I think they made a good point in comms as well, just about even getting yourself in the good position, like your classic good position just off the shoulder on that track means you're running the whole race on a slant, so you're just getting slightly different fatigue than what you would running on obviously a flat track, or even a more gradual indoor track as well. So Georgia Bell was in lane 2, which is absolutely fine, in terms of positioning, right? No, it's not that much further to run, and it just meant she was out of trouble. But she's kind of running awkwardly, I guess, the whole race.
Yeah, I always think I don't know why people ever do that indoors. It wasn't like they were even running fast. I was like, you could have just. For me, I think she would have been better off going to the front then.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I wasn't impressed with Crammy's
400 meters in lane 2, and I'm just like,
yeah.
and why were you doing that? Either just tuck in.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you noticed with when Guillemot went to the front, Crammy was like, oh, that's nerves. That is, she's gone to the front and she's not done anything. And I'm thinking, well, indoors, you're jogging around. There's no wind, there's no drafting. The pace is slow. Why would you not want to be at the front and keeping it slow when you've got a good kick?
Yeah,
Time and time again, it's the way to go because you don't have to come around anyone. You've got the shortest line. You can respond to any move. So it wasn't nerves at all. It was perfectly planned from the French athlete, and she came out on top. And the move she made as well down the back straight, she waited, then died out at just the right time to stop herself getting boxed. Was class. So good.
Yeah. She is good, man. I mean, 3:56 in the summer. I think she ran that the Olympic semis, and she's had a good indoor campaign. She's raced a lot this indoor season as well. She's done a few 800s, quite a few 1500s, and I think this is someone who really got themselves race sharp and race ready, for the Euros, and hats off to her. And, Alfonso, who was second, again, she was basically at 3:59.96, her lifetime best. But again, she's someone who's had a pretty good, and this is where I think you look at it, you're like, oh, that's actually a bit of an upset. But when you look at these athletes more, I mean, she still ran an 8:39 indoor 3K. Which, what did Georgia run? 8:37 or something like that. I think just it wasn't low 8:30s. It was high 8:30s if I remember. So when she ran a 3K, so you're like, okay, well, she's matching them there. But obviously Alfonso's season's best coming in over 1500 was 4:05, but clearly had a lot there. She was very good. So, and then obviously Reve getting the bronze, which I think is a big step up for her, because I think she so often, especially domestically, she's always been like the bridesmaid, and she's always been sort of coming second, third, whatever. But now get a medal at major championships and beat someone like Georgia Bell. When you look at this sport, look at Georgia last year, it is all about momentum. It's all about confidence. And now she's kind of got over that hurdle. She's like, oh, actually, it's like when Muir got beat for the first time, it's like, actually, I can do this. I think that's probably. By the way, Georgia carried herself so well in that interview afterwards, and she acknowledged that lots of respect for those athletes who can come and win multiple championships and turn up, because we do. I think a lot of people do just take it for granted, and you just assume, okay, yeah, you're the best. It's going to be easy for you to get the job done, but it's not. It's not as easy as that. Yeah. But the worst thing coming out of this now is Georgia has got that. I think there was not an air of invincibility at the back end of the summer, but it was just like a complete unknown quantity. People were just like, who is this person? They're amazing. Do you know what I mean? She was really good. It was just like, how do you beat her? Even the start of this indoor season, there was a bit of that, winning Morris, etc. But I think it's races like this where someone like Gilmo now goes into a race and she won't be fearing Georgia.
No.
And think about European champs and 2026.
Interesting though, because this is the first championship she's gone into as the favourite though.
Uh-huh.
We talk about her she's been kind of on top.
No,
of
I know,
years. Which probably which obviously is testament to her achievements last summer, but is also probably unfair of people like us who kind of made those comments as well, because we shouldn't really expect an athlete just because they medal in the Olympic Games to then be unbeatable. I
know. To be honest, though, that is true, but it's the manner in which medaled 3:52, and it's more than if she'd have snuck a bronze in a 4-minute 1500, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, sure.
But so that was a big upset. It was a great watch, that women's 1500. Also, mate, the wave lights that obviously were getting rumoured around before, I think I saw them a couple of times in the heats, but I don't really know what they were doing, what purpose they had. I've been baffed. And I haven't seen them in the finals, so maybe I just haven't seen how they're being utilised.
I didn't even notice at all, to be honest. That's the first I've heard about it, so...
Yeah, everyone was kicking up a fuss beforehand, and when I saw it, I was like, dear, that is just terrible. And I've seen them a couple times come on in the heats, but either they're really hard to see on screen, or the wave lights are just set a world record pace, which is obviously just miles ahead of that. But I just haven't seen them. So to be honest, I haven't been watching the full program. I've just tuned in for those distance races at the Europeans.
Quite right too.
So maybe they're talking about it somewhere. But Yeah, obviously Tom Keane was, in his heat, he was unfortunate not to qualify. Very unfortunate. Jakob has actually, let's move on to that men's 1500 because he has caused a bit of chaos. He caused chaos when he moved to the front yesterday. He caused chaos in Tom Keane's heat. Tom Keane was very, I guess, respectable when he was, didn't really want to mention Jakob's name. He was someone's come through on the inside. I don't know why I didn't call him out, but yeah, he was unfortunate, but I think very good experience for him in that realm.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's always tough, isn't it? Like particularly coming to an indoors, and is he gonna call out Jakob? Maybe he should, but doesn't really get him anywhere, does it? Do you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna get any benefit from doing that except a few Brits posting it on
just
Instagram
get
stories.
a bit of anger off your chest, mate. Yeah, it feels good. I agree. But what did you make of that 1500 final last night? I mean,
well, mate, I did say to you last night. To be honest, I was bored out of my mind. But particularly coming from that women's one, which is a brilliant race, and it's not just because Jakob won, like, and the favourite won, because as much as I'm not like Jakob's biggest fan, I do like seeing him put on like ridiculous performances, and I don't know whether it's just because we've become so used to him doing it, but I just thought nothing happened in that race. The most exciting thing was when he jogged to the front and everyone panicked and started pushing each other. That was literally the most exciting thing that happened all race. And I don't know, mate. I don't know. I was a bit baffed, to be honest. I said to you, I literally, as soon as that finished, didn't even watch him celebrating. Switched over to YouTube, put World Indoors from 2016 on, and watched myself a real indoor 1500 meters with all the big boys: Willis, Centro, Suleiman. Yeah, and also this. Why they were in half Tyson speed suits as well. Kind of just reminded me as well. I was kind of like, yeah, what's going on, mate? What's going on? Game's gone. But I don't know. Yeah, impressive from Jakob. Disappointing from Gawley. We just said before we start recording, I think it was only a little bit of a shove that he got involved with, but we think he'd have quite comfortably medalled if his momentum hadn't got upset.
No, comfortably. I actually saw when I saw the heats as well, and I saw how sort of just good Gawley was looking and how quick he was able to close. I was gutted when he got caught up in that tangle, because with the problem was he got caught up in that tangle. He was then too far back. I think he was in 6th or 7th, and again, as we've been seeing time and time again on this track, it's so hard to move. And I wasn't surprised, like when Jakob, when he moved, he went from last to first in the space of, well under 100 meters. He did it on basically the back stretch and a teeny bit of that bend. But he does, when you watch Jakob move, he was like, obviously, as soon as the bend comes, he was like really sort of cutting in. I think it was like the cut in on the French guy or Nadir, the Portuguese guy. And like, there was nothing sort of illegal there, but he did cut in sharp to get ahead, going around that bend. And then that's why it caused all these problems. And Farken's tactic was to like track Jakob. Because as soon as Jakob moved, Farken just pulled right out and was like, right, I'm stalking you. I'm going to get right on your tail. Probably the right thing to do, the right tactic. But I think if you're going to track Jakob, you got to do it from behind to start. Like you can't let him come by and then try and sort of get onto him, because that's what everyone does. And it cost Farken, which was a shame, because I think he was another athlete. Basically, him and Gawley were two athletes I would have liked to see sort of really, really challenge. However, the scenario which then would have played out would have been like Jakob and then 4 men trying to beat him and scrapping around. And at the end of the day, they would have all just been scrapping each other for a silver and a bronze probably. But I think out of all of those, the way Gawley ran his heat and stuff, I think he would have been the only one to actually get close to Jakob. If he was in the Habs' position for a lot of that race, I think he could have got a bit closer than those guys did coming off that last turn. But
well, I was surprised how close they were going into it, to be honest.
I don't think Jakob is even. I think he's got a lot more there.
Yeah.
This is the crazy thing. I watched a comparison of his heat and the final. I think the first 800 was within 0.5 of a second. So I think he went through 2 minutes in the final, or 2:01, and in the same, literally exactly the same in the heat. And it was all like they were a carbon copy of each other. The only thing he did in the final is just squeeze the last 400 a little quicker than he did in the heat. Running that 26.1 last 2. Yeah. Which isn't like, a lot of people were saying how like crazy that is. I'm like, mate, I mean, there's guys dropping 25 points over in the NCAA. Like it is a quick close, and like in the manner, I guess, getting quicker each 200, that is, hard to beat. It does catch a lot of people out, but yeah, again, it's not lightning speed. It's not. I don't think Hocker and Neguse and people like that are watching it, and even Kerr. I don't think Kerr's watching a game. But he gets the job done, and this is what I love about Jakob, because I think that's the last time he lost a European race was 2019 Lewandowski, when he was like, I don't even know, what was he like, 17 at the time or something. The last time he lost, 18. Yeah. Last time he lost a European champ. Unbelievable. And I have a lot of time for a guy who comes and supports European champs so much. And we talk about Grand Slam and stuff, but had we have had Kerr and just about everyone else turn up and compete in this race, it would have been a blinder.
Yeah. I think that's where you bang on, mate. Like you have got to be who's in front of you, but it's just a shame that's like what a European champs looks like. It's
indoor
just
champs, yeah.
But yeah, still
outdoors sometimes is not. Yeah. Just
I don't know.
I give Jakob a lot of credit for just always, stepping onto the line. Like, he is just a serial winner in these scenarios. But again, I just think.
What do you think of his interviews recently? Then he did that one with the Telegraph, obviously, about talking about front running and how it's the hardest way to do it, and that's why he does it. And then one day he's going to win, which obviously goes against what he said in the past about how he does it, because he doesn't lose doing that, and changing his mind, isn't he? So I thought they were quite interesting, some of the comments.
Yeah, it is the hardest way to win. I mean, I don't think he'll continue to just dominate at a European level. He really will. But again, I don't see him winning the Worlds in the summer, unless someone like, I guess all it takes is for someone like Hocker or Kerr, those guys to get a bit injured, have an interrupted, I guess pre-season in the States, or how this Grand Slam affects them. I don't know, and maybe Jakob has got that slight advantage if these guys do burn themselves out all doing Grand Slam racing each other. All it takes is for them to be slightly off their game, and the problem is he's been racing them when they have been 110%. But we are putting these guys on a bit of a pedestal, saying how fast they can close. They can live with Jakob now. However, they've got 8 bloody races to deal with in Grand Slam, all racing each other. And then 12 weeks later, they've got to turn out for, and none of them have got a past of being able to do, I know they've all come through the NCAA system, but none of them have a past of being able to do like a really intense season on the circuit and then go to a championships to perform. They've had to go to the championships and just do a couple races on the circuit to tune up. Yeah. So it might be Jakob's year. We might be right now, but it might be Jakob's year when it comes to the World Champs.
Yeah, but there's also there's the possibility, right? Someone else as well could come into the.
I mean, Laros, I'm so excited to see what he can do over there. It's people like that. I mean, Cam Myers, Hobbs Kessler. Yeah, there's a lot of guys on the cusp. And that Renault Chariot as well. He starts to sort of get his act together a little bit. What could he do? Because he's just a bit erratic and all over the place. But there is a lot of guys, you're right.
There is, and I think that's the issue for Jakob. It'd be more likely to win if it was just still a head-to-head between him and Kerr. But if you start throwing more guys into the mix who are going to be there or thereabouts, he's going to be running scared.
Well, it's the same old story, right? Because now, Jakob goes to the front, and maybe Neguse and Hocker are like, we need to pay closer attention. They, Kerr, they all sit in second, third of all. And then it's that person like Hocker was in the Olympics. He's back in sort of 6th. He's like, right, I'm now gaining momentum. I'm passing people. And it could be that kind of person which comes out on top. So, mate, we're talking down the road here. We need to get back to the Euros. But yeah, impressive run from Jakob. Tom Keane was very unlucky. I think he's going to have a great season. I think Gawley is going to have, if he's healthy now, he was saying how he felt much more like himself again. I think this indoor is going to be a catalyst for Gawley. I think we're going to see him back to his best this summer for sure. And I think he is going to be one tough man to beat on British soil. He really is.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I guess one more thing on the Euros. Georgia Bell now. How does she get on at World Indoors? Is this, in a way, is this what she needed? Does she need a reminder that, not a reminder, but just something to get herself going again, Because I think a lot of the time we say, like, particularly, losing early indoors or losing kind of early in the summer can be so good for athletes.
I think, she said about how it was fuel for the fire last year, etc. But I think World Indoors is actually easier for her because it was eyes on Georgia, and you could see, you know, they had this game plan. They were going to go to the front. They were going to slowly just increase it, etc. And I think Crammy was right what he said. He said, you know, the way Georgia could have won that is just by waiting, and just one big move. And the way that track's laid out, that makes sense. But I think World Indoors will be easier because she won't be, certainly probably won't be the favorite anymore. You know, I think you start to turn to the Americans, some of the Ethiopians as well. And you then like, well, she can probably just run a race how she likes to run, get into second or third and just sort of wait for that kick. So I think she'll have less pressure on her to go, what tactic do I need to do here to try and win this? As more like, okay, I can kind of key off of others and then choose when I want to strike. And I think that's when she's best. And so I think it will be an easier, I think chances are she'd probably go to World Indoors, especially if she's had this little flu thing she was talking about, and she could well medal.
Yeah, I think for sure, if not win it, mate, to be honest.
Well, yeah,
absolutely. Well, yeah, a bit more news on a circuit. Talking of those 1500s, Jake Whiteman's moved on and has got a new coach, so no longer with his dad Jeff.
Yeah, sad times, I guess, for both of them, but I guess probably something that was coming given, you know, just the consistency of injuries that Whiteman's had. You know, and I guess that move up to Manchester and stuff. And I think probably just gets a time where you've only known one thing. And I think, yeah, he's probably looking at his career now going, I've probably got, you know, this is my last Olympic cycle. I've got 3 years left in the game. Is there something else out there that I can experience? Difficult for him though, you know, a guy that's been in the same setup and trained a certain way for his whole life, you know, with the same coach and that relationship, to go to, you know, someone else, it's how quick can he adapt? Whereas, you know, sometimes you look at athletes, I mean, obviously we spoke to Andrew Koska and you're like, he's put himself in so many different situations with, you know, he's been over to America, he's had different coaches at home, he's worked under many different people. And you're like, okay, well, he probably he's taught himself to adapt quite quickly to different programs and to buy into programs quite quickly as well. And I think that's the important thing. Whereas someone like Weidman, I mean, he's a true professional, so I'm sure he'll acknowledge this, but it's how quickly he can sort of adapt and trust a new setup and a new program. And I think that, I mean, who's out there that can work with this guy? Who is out there that can take on a current, well, not a current, but, you know, a 1500 meter world champion and just a unique athlete in Whiteman? The fact that he's got so much of that raw speed over the 800 and the 1500, and I wonder what he's going to do. Is he looking at the double threshold thinking, I probably need to start doing this now? It's who he chooses to be coached by, that's going to be real news.
Yeah.
That's going to be really exciting. And how quickly that turnaround is, because he hasn't got much time to waste now, you know, with the outdoor season looming and the world's...
Yeah, I'm surprised it's come now, really.
Me
You'd
too.
think. And obviously you've got to take time for these decisions, but like you say, if he thinks he's got one more Olympic cycle, like, you'd have wanted to get going in October, November, you know, with the new coach.
Yeah, I think, yeah. It's difficult. He was running well. Like, he, you know, 7:44 indoors for him in January was a solid run. And sort of, had he been able to sort of build off of that, I think he would have been a great place. We would have seen him at this European indoors, we would have seen him at World Indoors, etc. So it's unfortunate, but you're right. I kind of look at his career and I'm like, potentially the time that I'm like, you've got one more Olympic cycle. Is it not just a case of just being like, right, you know, sitting down with Jeff and just being like, right, let's figure this out. You know, what can we change? Because the time it's now going to take him to get a new coach and transition, and maybe you've got a year or two where it's like you're just figuring out a new program. You know, it could be sort of a year to 18 months before it starts clicking. And, you know, do you have that? Where's the game going to be in that time? And then you're like, God, you got to start thinking like, so I wondered if it's tricky. But like you said, I think if there was going to be a move, probably, mate, you talk about last year. I mean, even sort of after he wins the world championships, you're like, it would be bold and it would never happen. No one would ever leave their coach after a big win like that. But sometimes it's like, that's kind of the fresh start opportunity that he might have had. And he would also be buying himself a little bit of a grace period, because it's like, you've reached such a height. What are the chances of you being able to do that again? Minimal.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It's so tough. And you got to think, like, he's the only reason Whiteman carries on now, obviously, like, apart from like loving the sport, right, is for an Olympic medal. It's not to
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
another Olympics. I don't think anyway. Like, so you're not talking about just getting back healthy, and you're talking about being, well, you're basically you're talking about being the best. Because like on a given day, right? Like, because I think anyone who medals has to have the potential to win on the day, sort of thing, in the 15.
Do you know what's hard? Do you know what's hard about this era? I think if you're Jake Wyman, you're sitting at home right now and you're looking at the level of 1500 meter running in the world. And I think 10 years ago, like you know, when you watch back Centro and stuff like that, he didn't have to be the fastest 1500 meter runner. And, you know, so he kind of knew, as long as I'm in low 330 shape, I've got what it takes to win a championship. And that was certainly the case, I think, when Whiteman won the championship. You know, he was like, as long as I'm in low 330 shape or around that 330 ballpark, I'll have what it takes to win in a championship style. But I think now it's like, oh my God, I've got to get myself to 327 shape. I've got to get myself in shape that I've never been in before. And I've got to have that, you know, championship ability to go and win, because, you know, Hocker's that level, the Goose, and what's more, the race is being won at that speed as well. Like the race.
My only thing with that is that because I watched 2016 Olympics as well last night. Yeah, I got myself in a bit of a YouTube hole so
I don't rate those races, but you
mate,
love Centro, and I get it.
I know it's not even just Centro. Like I just like how people used to like make moves.
Yeah,
and really grab the race, but like so that world indoors I'm talking about, right? The move Willis makes that world indoor race. Centro comes out on top, but Willis comes second, and they've been balanced since Milrose, but that season. But Willis really like grabs the race by the scruff of the neck, and you just don't see it anymore. And yeah, they're going faster. I appreciate that, but you say, oh, back then guys only had to make sure they're in low 330 shape. Like 330 back then is the new 328.
Yeah.
So it's not actually that different. And I'm not being funny. You chuck Jakob in that 2016 race. There's so many guys who could smoke him in that race.
Disagree, but yeah, they certainly.
Jakob is not as good as like, and obviously I shouldn't probably use Kiprop as an example, right? Like Jakob is not as good as Kiprop and McLuffy.
Yeah, I completely beg to differ, mate. He's a machine. He's arguably, I mean, he is the best 1500 meter runner that we've seen, you know, and just purely on consistency. I guess it depends what you class as, you know, the best in the world, but he's the best.
Consistently losing.
Him and El Garouge, I mean, El Garouge lost a couple of Olympic titles, so yeah, it's a hard thing to win. But I just think the sheer dominance, let alone Jakob's still only 24, is frightening. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time to see what happens to Whiteman. I mean, is he gonna move to? I mean, also he's made that move to Manchester, so he's kind of uprooted his life and committed to that location. So then, is he going to move again? Like, is he going to move out to the States? Like, what options does he have? I mean, you're thinking, well, in the UK, you've probably got Steve Cram and co, or you've got Trevor Painter and Jenny Meadows at the M11 track club. And I just couldn't see. I think maybe the only one you're like, maybe Steve Cram. I guess he can relate to the circumstance quite a lot. He's obviously been there. Relatively similar athletes in the way that they were strong 8:15 runners. So maybe he'd go down that route, but, you know, does he want a coach who's going to be hands-on all the time, like there at training? And I can't see Whiteman in a big training group.
Well, that's it. It's whether he wants.
Like
if he goes to one of those small setups, I'm like you said, what's the point? I almost get it. He goes and rips it up completely and just goes and jump, and he becomes part of like the OAC, right? And you're like, okay, well, he's just going completely different. But if you're going to go for like a really distinct kind of bespoke approach where you work with like a tiny group where you're the main guy, I'm like, can anyone give you better than what Jeff Wyman gave you for Jake? I think like in that respect.
Yeah, I think Jeff has developed him, took him to that level. And the thing is, they have a program and a philosophy that works so well. Just the one drawback to it was obviously he's had injury after injury after injury. But yeah, I think, is it a case of sometimes, you know, an athlete leaves a coach because they lose that kind of faith in coach where it's going to get them. And obviously they've got another dynamic of father and son. And I think that's a massive, massive scenario that they've got to negotiate as well, and to keep that relationship healthy. So, one of the best coach athlete relationships has come to an end. And it would be an incredible comeback if Wyman gets back on the world stage and back medaling. I think that would be, hats off. But he's
I think if he makes the team for Tokyo, I think it'd be a big.
That's
big
a success. And then it's like, can start to build 2026, 2027 to, he has got time, I guess. But it would need to be an uninterrupted next 3 or 4 years. So let's see. We'll take him down at Iffley Road.
There you go, mate. Get your CV over.
Yeah. Does he want to open his season at the Bannister Mars? Yeah. Hey. Yeah. So that's the Whiteman news. I think just to touch on as well, we got those 800s, we got those 3000s coming up. How does George Mills do in the 3000? How does Coscoon do the 3000 Laros? Basically, the question is, does Mills medal? Does Mills back up his 5,000 meter silver medal last year at the Europeans? Does he push? I can see Mills medaling. I can't see anyone pushing Jakob. Laros might give it a go, but I think again, like in that 1500, there's guys who are competing for silver.
Yeah. No one's going to touch Jakob.
Not over the 3000
at all. Like 3K is even more of a even more easy for him. Like there's just no way anyone comes close to him over the 3K. Unless, and that's the thing I was going to say, unless he gets pushed. But the way Jakob races, he's so smart that he will never get himself in a position where that's going to happen. So I can't even see that happen.
He'll just lead from the front, and it'll be a case of Mills, Laros, and Co.
I was going to say, so Mills, right? Mills likes to do do his best Jakob impression off the line. Like who's gonna be at the back of that race at the start? Going to be Mills or Jakob? Are they going to be kind of playing cat and mouse to see who can run the slowest?
Yeah. This is it, man. But anyway, there's women's 3000s. Obviously, the heats are going to go this morning. I think we'll have 3 in the final. That'll be great to see. And hopefully we can see Millie Courtney Bryant and Hannah Nuttall actually go sort of head towards a medal with Innes in that field as well. But the 800s, mate, tough watch. I think a lot of our runners just got a little bit unlucky, and I think that 800 meter running indoors and on that track looks horrible, to be honest. With those banks, you could just see so many athletes just like actually struggling to run. In the longer races, I don't think it'll be as much of an issue. Obviously, they're going at slow speeds, but oh my god, some of those 800 runners did not enjoy those banks.
Yeah, you say that. I also think you got to think about what we said last weekend around like the type of team they've picked. And don't get me wrong, it's great that we've taken them, and I think that's definitely the right decision. But the 800s was like a development team, right? It was. It's a team of athletes who have not kind of got the, I guess, British Athletics' usual qualification standards. So you can't go in and expect them all to make the final. And I guess that's the thing with the usual UKA standards, is that if you reach them, you're going and you're expected to make a final and potentially medal, particularly at Europeans. So, and then that wasn't the case this year. Again, just want to reinforce it. I think that's brilliant. But then probably results you'd then expect in terms of.
I think expect. It's tough. People like Higgins, Randolph was just extremely unlucky as well. But people like those athletes, Erin Wallace, Grace Van Zandt, they're 50-50, right? If everything clicks, they are 100% going to be able to make a semi-final. But then, if things don't click, it's like, they end up coming out the back door, if you like.
Yeah. So, it's good experience for them, and obviously Justin Davies through. Well, as we're recording anyway, he's through. Obviously got his semi today, so it'll be interesting.
Semi, man. I think if I'm Davies, I hope that he starts to look at this track and backs himself. Like the problem is, these 800s do go off fast, and I don't think he can just quite get to the front. Don't think his speed's there to drop a 25 and get to the front. However, if he can get to the front at some point in these races, he will. People can't get around him. He's so good once he's flowing. He honestly, when he gets outdoors, he needs to start running his races like Rhodesia and just dictating things from the front and just running, because he's so good at running even speed as well. And the less traffic he can get in, the faster he's going to run. Some of the BMCs last year he would just ping off the front and dominate. And he is a serious talent, and I think it's going to be cool to see. I think he's going to add his name. We think of Patterson. We think of Bergen. I think this man's going to be next.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And well, we can give a little preview. We have actually spoken to Justin on the podcast, so that'll be coming to you guys very, very soon.
That's 22 as well.
So look forward to that. I believe next weekend you guys will have that. But tomorrow, Andrew Koskinen will be coming out, so make sure you look out for that one whilst you enjoy the rest of the Euros. And obviously, hopefully, we'll see both of those guys in the finals as well.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. A few more points to touch on then just for the week. Sort of roundup, if you like. Grand Slam, obviously, is going to be on TNT Sports. I mean, what do you make of that? A lot of people, well, kind of 50-50. Some people kicking up a fuss saying, it's behind a £25 a month paywall. But a lot of people have TNT Sports. Like, most people,
where do you expect athletics?
Most people I know, I think it's better. I would much rather watch on TNT than BBC. The BBC coverage just kills me. It sucks the life out of me. And so I'm like, I think TNT will smash it. Yes, it's you got to pay monthly to watch it, and
who's not watching the Champions League anyway?
That's what I'm saying. Who hasn't got that TNT for the Champions League? Like, come on, you're not a sports fan if you ain't got TNT. Just sacrifice a few beers for the week, and you can afford it. Yeah, I think it's good for the sport that actually it's on like what I would class as a proper sports channel. I mean, the Premier League, Sky Sports has elevated the Premier League and many other sports as well, and I think it takes someone with a dedicated, just production company like TNT and platform to really scale up the sport. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it on there and see how they cover it as well. Obviously, I think the timing's going to be a bit rough if we're watching it late at night, midnight, all that stuff with it being in America. But I think it's good news, and I guess I haven't seen any figures on who's paying for it. Whether TNT have pay to cover Grand Slam, or Grand Slam have just said, hey, can you cover it? And in effect, TNT are doing it as a bit of a freebie sort of thing, seeing how it goes that first year. So I'm sure that will be disclosed. But again, it's funny because in America, I think it's on Peacock or whatever, and they used to cover, which is NBC Sports pretty much, and they used to cover the Diamond League, and they sacked off the Diamond League and were like, we're just going to go with Grand Slam. Hence why obviously the Diamond League is on Flow Track. And stuff in the States. And I think that shows the level of Grand Slam. And I think they will want to cover it in a very, very cool, creative and new fashion as well.
Yeah.
Because how the sport comes across on TV, for me, needs to change as well.
Oh, well, yeah, you look at these Europeans, like you say, having the life sucked out of you. So, yeah, we won't go too much into that. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, won't it? And I think the good thing is I think Diamond League will step up. I really do. I think
they're going to have to.
Yeah, they're going to have to. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can throw out as well.
Fear the Grand Slam. They've got that long-term plan in place. I think each year they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And they have visions to create something mega, like the likes of the NBA, the NFL. And I just think Diamond League, as much as they want to sort of improve the sport, they're too slow to change. Their changes have been forced by Grand Slam. Yeah. And they won't actively change, and they can't. Diamond League couldn't sit there and go, "Hey, do you know what? We're going to get rid of all the field events." They can't. So they're tied to certain things because they're associated with World Athletics and the governing body and kind of fair play across all the events in the sport. Whereas Grand Slam don't care, and I think they are going to accelerate things and in the sport, and they're going to take over. And I think in the next, you could have by the time the next Olympic comes around, it's like actually there's only 8 events that people now care about, even though at the Olympics we'll be watching all of the athletics events, which is going to be tough because in those events if Grand Slam does get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's where everyone's attention goes, those events not in Grand Slam will suffer drastically because the funding, the sponsorship, the contracts are surely going to suffer because it's like, oh, well, hold on a minute, you're not in Grand Slam. Maybe Grand Slam will expand, but
hey, the thing is, do you think we'll ever get to the point, because track is, trying to make sure I think about this carefully now, track and field is probably the only sport where the Olympics is the biggest. Maybe swimming.
Like swimming and all that.
Triathlon, like similar sports, but even like cycling, like the Tour de France is bigger.
Obviously, cycling, right, they don't care.
Yeah. So could it ever? Will we ever be in an era where...
Mate, I've always... For athletes, mate, I think for athletes to earn a serious living and compete with other sports, the Olympics needs to... It's sad because the Olympics is amazing, but the Olympics can't be the biggest thing. It can't. It comes around every 4 years.
Yeah. Not to truly professionalize the sport. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. To truly... And this is what Michael Johnson's been saying. For athletes to actually be stars, globally in sport, not just in our sport. They need to be competing in a similar format like each year, which is ruthless. So we'll see how that unfolds. Yeah. So, and then just on the back of Grand Slam and stuff, the World Road Running Champs obviously move out of San Diego. Now this is an interesting one, because obviously remember when World Athletics like moved the World Cross, supposed to be in Croatia, and they just dropped it in Belgrade. Yeah. So apparently there was an article in some San Diego Times or something like that. The reason that they weren't able to host it is because they have to be responsible for purely, funding the meets. So World Athletics have like a criteria how they want these meets to be run, and it just costs it costs an arm and a leg. I mean, apparently the local organizing committee had raised over $3 million, and that was still nowhere near enough to put on a meet in the fashion World Athletics demand, which is crazy. And World Athletics don't sort of chip in and help. And the problem with America is apparently, obviously, USATF, the governing body, they don't chip in and help either. Whereas, I presume when we host the championships, say European Championships 2026, British Athletics will be a big part of organising that and hosting it and putting up,
That's why USATF have a load of money, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in America, mate, no one does anything for free. It's ruthless. And if people aren't making money out of something, they don't want to know. And I think that's obviously been a little bit of it as well. But, they plan to have over 50,000 people, general public run this event. They plan to have, I think when they were looking at the numbers, over 65% of runners were going to come from, not abroad, but just from all over the US and other countries. They weren't locals to San Diego. So it's a shame, but, I'm sure it'll move somewhere. But now the date's going to change and this and that, and it's all just getting a bit messy. So,
which is not good for athletes, is it?
Well, this is what I mean. I think US just had their trials, obviously. Yeah, it's not ideal for athletes at all.
Yeah, and that's what you got to remember here. Like, there's people trying to win a world title. I know it's a road running champs title, but or make teams, and it seriously disrupts that. Yeah, although I didn't realize this, but it was only supposed to be the week after the world champs anyway. So it's like tough turnaround. But I guess a different kind of athlete would do both. Yeah, so I mean that's that, mate. The only other thing, obviously, Tokyo Marathon was last weekend. Some pretty sharp results there. I mean, top 10 with 2:06 or quicker. It's really deep on the men's side, really deep, and the same with the women. But obviously the big news, I guess, was Cheptegei, running sort of 2:05, and you're just like, is this man, like, he could have had a bit of a legacy on the track. I know it's his second marathon, but you're like, mate, is it, if you're going to go run 7, he's probably going to get quicker, run 2:04, but I just a bit disappointed, to be honest. I'm like, if you're going to move to the roads, you either have to tear it up. I think, but mate,
because he'd still be tearing up the 10. For me, he'd still be tearing the 10 in that up.
He would, but do you know what it goes back? It goes back to, like we were just saying, about how if you want to be a real star, you're not doing that as a 10K track runner.
Yeah.
The only reason Farah's a star, right, is because we're British, and that was just huge.
You are doing it as a 10K track runner. Like, if you're dominant, Farah was dominant, and
I don't think you are not on the world stage. Whereas look at all these runners, right? They've seen what Eliud Kipchoge's done, and he is a household name.
No one will ever be Kipchoge again.
I know, but obviously, look, these guys are world class athletes. They all believe they can, right? So they're thinking the same thing, and they've seen the success and kind of the finances and the publicity that marathons can bring, and that's why they're moving over there, because Cheptegei can continue to dominate the 10K, and he might get a great Nike deal out of it, but apart from that, he's not getting like worldwide recognition.
Yeah, and I just wonder, in these instances, obviously ZNN and obviously we know Kip Limo's moving up as well, and I just wonder how much these guys are influenced by their agents just to kind of take that leap onto the roads. But yeah, just interesting result and interesting kind of decisions for him to do that, because clearly it's going to be a long process for Cheptegei to adapt and really start to master the marathon if he actually can. Whereas you're like, dude, you're pretty much in your prime. Like, he's 28 years old. Farah won his first 10K. Didn't he win his world champs for saying at 29? Or was it?
But then Farah always said he wanted to go to the roads, and then for the roads he went too late. I mean, it's better. It was better that we saw him for longer on the track, but he he used to say, "Oh yeah, I'll do the marathon. I'm going to move one day," and and it was too late. So that's the
interesting stuff, man. Well, it's NCAAs next weekend as well, so look out for that. Always a good watch. And Podium Festival, buddy. That's some really good, deep domestic fields to look out for. You know, and that's what actually in comparison to last year. Last year we had quite a few sort of Kenyans. Obviously, we had Gebri win on the men's side, but I think we got some great for Nick Griggs, Barnico, Butcher, Jack Kavanagh's in great shape. Just a few names to mention on the women's side. I think that's a really strong field. You've got like Izzy Fry, Georgie Gret, Katie Snowden, Jess Bailey's in there. Apparently she's going for a European under-20 record maybe. Inez, depending on how she gets on at Euros, is down on the entries. A couple of Spaniards. India Weir's obviously in good form. Sarah McDonald, Emil Waldman. So some really good competitive domestic fields. And we've got that handicap mile, which we saw on New Year's Eve as well, to look forward to. Tyler Billiard, probably hot favourite in that. And he'll be chasing Holly Parker, Broccoli Langford as well. So what's that? Head start of about 30-odd seconds. Can Billiard reel them in? We'll see. Tina Corkins in there as well. It's some good fields. Podium Festival. And of course, if you can't watch it, it will be live on Sports Shoes YouTube. So guess that's it, man. We'll look forward to watching the 3000, the heats this morning, and obviously those 800 semis, and obviously all the finals Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I'll catch you tomorrow with our usual guest episode.